For those of you that aren't aware, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Transformers brand in North America. It premiered on toy shelves, in comic books, and on television way back in 1984. I was 4 years old, and enjoying the Transformers as a boy is one of my earliest memories. I remember coming home from preschool and having to suffer through Tom and Jerry at 3 o'clock because it came on before the Transformers, and I resented Tom and Jerry for so many years because it came between me and my favorite show. I just wanted to watch, Optimus Prime making those grandiose speeches, and, oh God, it killed me to have to sit through a show I didn't like and wait. But since it's their anniversary, Hasbro has decided to commemorate that auspicious occasion with a special new line of mostly reissues, but a few new toys under the label The Thrilling 30. I don't have an itemized list of what all of these Thrilling 30 are going to be, but it will be a specialized series of toy releases, each one numbered. I kind of lost track of what they were. There was a couple of reissues of classic toys from Transformers Armada, from Energon, a few other random toys from mostly the last decade, but a few going back quite a ways into Transformers history, most of them being under the Transformers Platinum label. And the one that I kind of really wanted to get my hands on from the first minute I heard about it was Platinum Predaking. I had the original Predacons. I didn't have them as a boy, but I did get my hands on them as a teenager, and they were pretty awesome back then. So I was very excited to have the opportunity to have a newly reissued set. And when they showed up at one of my local Toys R Us stores, when the new movie toys started coming out, I thought to myself, that's pretty awesome. Then I looked at the price, $150. Not that awesome. Then what did I find last week? I was in that same Toys R Us on, I believe, Wednesday. What did I find? But they were on sale. $112. That's a little bit more tolerable. So I figured, what the hell? I'm gonna grab one while I can. So let's see what we got. Like usual, we'll do a quick peek at the box. You got this very dramatic image of Predaking in combined form with the Transformers Platinum Edition logo. Down the one side, you can see this is number 10 in the Thrilling 30 series. Other side just has a cropped photo with the Thrilling 30 logo. And the back has some information about the combined form, some information about some bio about the Predacons themselves, and photos of each of the individual toys, as well as something you don't see too much of nowadays, a set of tech specs. One of the figures has been renamed for this release. I guess they lost the name Tantrum because he's been renamed Torox. All of the others, Razor Claw, Headstrong, Rampage, and Dive Bomb, retain their original names from their original releases back in the 80s. So here you can see all 5 of them now in robot mode. These are not small figures. Predaking was the only G1 combiner that used the standard 5 toy configuration, one each for each limb and then one figure for the torso, that didn't use what fans refer to as the Scramble City type, a single larger, what we would call deluxe or Voyager sized figure as the torso, and then basic or deluxe or a smaller size for the limbs. This one instead opted to use the same size class for all 5, which makes for a very large combined form, but also a very intimidating team. You can also see they all share a very similar color scheme. A lot of reds, a lot of blacks, oranges, and golds. The original toy release, the gold was actually yellow, but for this limited edition release, and I believe a limited reissue in Japan as well, the yellows were all made gold. Most of it is paint. Some of it is molded gold. Razor Claw's head here is molded in gold. The swords are all molded in gold. But all of the other paint, Dive Bomb's backpack, Headstrong's torso, Razor Claw's arms and legs, it's all painted gold. It's a nice quality gold paint though. It doesn't appear to be flaking or scraping off in any places, even where parts tend to combine or scrape against each other, such as Razor Claw's arms and legs, where parts tend to fold in on each other. Each one comes with a sword and 2 rifles, save for Razor Claw, who only includes the big shoulder cannon, which does transform and forms the forearm gun for Predaking in combined form. But each of the feet also includes one of these mortar launchers, which fit on their back in beast mode and also form the feet of the combined form. Now, I guess we'll take a look at each one individually. Torox, or Headstrong, or Tantrum rather, is his original name, transforms into a bull. In terms of posability, pretty limited. Up and down shoulders, left and right, and outward movement. Universal joints, basically. And his head can look left and right, and he can look down a little bit. Other than that, not much to speak of. Transformation, very simple. I always get that mixed up. Fold up his arms, flip out his legs, compress, rotate his head, and there you have him in beast mode. His mortar launcher can plug onto his back, like so. Rampage, the tiger, is a bit more posable. His arms are a little more limited. They're simple forward-backward movement, but his head is on a hinge for transformation, so he can look up a little bit. He's got hips, good front and back movement. It's purely for transformation, but it is there. So it's a really wide range back, a little bit limited forward, but he also has knees. But again, that's all for the transformation. Transform him. Retract his hands, fold the beast mode legs down, compress the arms into the sides, fold his head down, beast mode head flips around, rotate at the waist, flip up the feet, and bend at the knees, and flip out his beast mode legs. Oh, I goofed. Not supposed to rotate him at the waist. My bad. And then his tail flips out like so, which sticks up and always seemed very odd to me. He's got a plug socket on each shoulder, so you can plug in a weapon if you want to arm him, or if you want to do like the new Dinobot Slug from the new movie, you can plug a sword into either shoulder and have him just run down kneecapping dudes. Rampage transforms exactly the same way. Posability is virtually identical. It's got the same front and back shoulders. Head can look up, but the transformation joint looks a little gimpy when he does. Rampage's arms are really stubby, and they look really gimpy, which is a real bummer. But other than that, it's a really dynamic-looking robot. But like I said, his transformation is basically identical to Rampage. Right down to the tail flipping out. I forgot to mention, both Rampage and Razor Claw have opening jaws. So, if you want, you can do that. His weapon, the X-ray cannon, can, like in robot mode, can plug into his shoulder, or there's a small socket on his back if you want to have it set up like a turret. Kind of gets in the way of his tail, though. looks a little bit awkward. But beast mode poseability I actually forgot to mention for Rampage, but is the same on Razor Claw. It's got posable ankles on all 4 legs. Hind legs can hinge up a little bit on the transformation joint, and there's another hinge here, so you can kind of get maybe some like pouncing poses if you don't mind that his 4 legs are basically locked. Dive Bomb is actually about my favorite one, because he's the most different, because he's an eagle. And his transformation is very similar to Rampage and Razor Claw, but it adds a little bit. And the fact that he's got wings kind of makes him a little bit more badass. You start by folding the head down, feet fold up. He's got little beast mode talons that flip out from underneath, and then the hands compress into the forearms when they want to. There it goes. And then you can pose the wings however you like. 2 notches of wing up here, and then 3 or 4 notches on the wing tips, so you can have them, you know, in a variety of positions. What I like about Dive Bomb though is because he's got the same hips as Rampage and Razor Claw do. If you untransform his lower legs by just a little bit, you can get a lot more forward bend, and you can kind of make it look like he's swooping in to an attack, like his talons are reaching down to like snatch Razor Claw and carry him away. But he can stand up in beast mode just fine, and his head is quite expressive. It's on multiple joints, so you can have him position his head however you want. As well, his jaw opens too. And finally, Headstrong. I would say actually has the most poseability in the upper body of any of them, because he's got both forward and back shoulders and double jointed elbows. Purely for the transformation though. Other than that, he's a brick. Head can't look up or look down without completely looking ridiculous. Legs are immobile. It's purely the arms, but not very many G1 era Transformers had shoulders and elbows, let alone double jointed elbows. So that's kind of something to be impressed with. His transformation is kind of interesting. You fold away his arms, and then his forelegs come out of his boobs. The hind legs unfold from behind his robot mode legs, and these panels rotate so that everything lines up and locks together, and then his robot mode folds down between his legs. Beast mode head slides in place, and there you go. And like Tantrum, his mortar cannon can plug into his back. So there we have our 5 Predacons in beast mode. But that's really not why you're here. We're here to take a look at the combined form. We're here to see this big beastie in full-on Predaking mode. So we're going to start with the feet, because it's always best to start at the bottom and work your way up. So we're going to start with Headstrong here. Basically, you half transform him into robot mode. These panels you rotate in this direction, like so, and they fit into the foot socket like that. You push in his beast mode leg boobs, fold his rhino head down, and then compress the foot as much as it'll go. Tantrum, fold his legs down, extend, fold his other legs up, and compress. Rotate the head around, plug him onto the foot, and there you have the other foot. Rampage, or Razor Claw rather, and this is the time when you actually would rotate the waist around 180 degrees. For Fold up the beast mode legs. Lion mode head goes down on the chest. Fold up the robot mode head. And this is where things get a little bit limp. He's got good hips normally, but you have to spread them apart for combined mode or you wouldn't have enough room for each leg. And this is where he gets a little bit floppy. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's just on mine or if this is a problem with the toy just in general, but the ratchet on these hips is so freaking loose. And considering how much weight this thing carries in its upper body, it's not great. But anyway, so there we have the legs and torso. Move on to the arms. Rampage, you do largely the same as with Razor Claw. You fold up the beast mode rear legs, fold the beast mode head down, beast mode legs like so, and then pull out the socket. The robot mode fist then fits into a slot on between the legs. And that is our assembled right arm. Dive Bomb is a little interesting. You have to take off his wing pack. Fold down the peg. Rotate the waist 180 degrees, because this skirt has to be on the outside, and then attach the hand largely the same way as with Razor Claw, or Rampage. I keep getting those two mixed up. So there, now we've got our other arm now essentially transformed. And the wing pack has a peg that fits into the back of Razor Claw. It's all a little bit tight in the back. There's a lot of parts that have a tendency to kind of collide with each other. And then robot mode head, largely like a lot of other G1 combiners, is just a helmet. And then Rampage's blaster unfolds and basically changes ends, and then you've got an extended barrel that plugs into Dive Bomb's skirt. And there we have our completed Predaking. This is the recommended out-of-the-box transformation. There's not much to say. He's a big, hulking, brutish kind of monstrosity kludged together of 5 big beasts. Like I said, though, this is the out-of-the-box recommended transformation, but I find this has a tendency to kind of give him narrow shoulders, and especially with the big, huge legs, his arms have a tendency to be kind of dwarfed by them. You can see the left arm, in fact, kind of dangles behind the leg because the overall proportions are a little bit wacky. So what I like to do is I spread Razor Claw's shoulders and rotate them 1 notch. So you've got these little cannons that were on Razor Claw's shoulders are kind of pointed forward. Oftentimes what I'll do, in fact, as well, is the beast mode legs on Razor Claw I will flip up and kind of fill out that negative space a little bit and then reattach the wing pack. So now he's got much broader shoulders, and I think it just looks a lot better. I did forget to mention, there is one addition to this toy that did not come with the original. This is Predaking's new sword. It's the same mold as was on the Voyager class Beast Hunters Optimus Prime from Transformers Prime. I believe it was originally molded in clear green, and this one, as you can see, is in gold. But it's interesting. It kind of fits with the aesthetic decently. Not fantastic, but it looks all right. Poseability. Got ratchet shoulders. I'm just going to pop these off because they keep falling off. If you kludge the elbows a little bit, you can get an elbow joint out of Rampage and similar one out of Dive Bomb by rotating the waist 180 degrees, or rather 90 degrees. You can get a decent elbow joint and a wrist swivel as well. The wrist, as well as an up and down wrist, there's also a proper wrist swivel. I love these hands, by the way. I love these huge knuckle spikes, just look so vicious and deadly. Dive Bomb, likewise, if you don't mind the cannon being now on the back of the arm, can also get kind of a kludged together elbow joint. Largely, if you untransform the robot mode legs a little bit, much like I did for that kind of predatory bird pose. But yeah, so Poseability, like I said, he's got hips, but as I've said, they're very loose, but no knees to speak of. It's a neat toy, but it's a product of its era. It's got some flaws. I'm glad I bought it, but I'm really glad I got it on sale. I should mention it is full of die cast. Most of the torsos of Headstrong and Tantrum are pure die cast. Like all the sides of Tantrum's body are pure die cast. Most of the flanks and back of Tantrum are all die cast. The hips of all three of the arms and torso of Rampage, Razor Claw, and Dive Bomb are all, like the waist assembly here is all die cast. And there's a little bit more here and there. So it gives the toy some pretty good heft. Like there's a lot of weight to this. But unfortunately, because it's quite top heavy, 3 large Transformer toys in the upper body and those kind of really flimsy hips, you've probably noticed every time I try to move it, he has a tendency to tip forward, which is a bummer. But you know, it's a 25-year-old toy that was re-released recently, so I can't expect it to hold up to modern standards. I bought this for the nostalgia factor, and you know, for that I'm happy. I'm satisfied with it. The molding itself seems to be holding up. A problem that has arisen with a lot of reissued Transformers is that they suffer from mold degradation. I bought the reissued Seacons, which were released on Big Bad Toy Store, oh god, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, and have been languishing on clearance there for probably most of that time because nobody else bought them apparently. Had massive mold degradation. Parts fit was very poor. Tolerance was very poor. There were areas where there was like pitting in the plastic because the metal the metal toolings for the molds had just worn out so badly that the toys just weren't the same anymore. But I'm not noticing anything like that here. If I were to compare this to my original toy that I had in the 90s, I don't think aside from that one not having had any die cast and not being painted gold, I'd be hard pressed to tell any difference. This is a really well done reissue. Really, my only complaints stem from the fact that, you know, it's a G1 toy, so posability is limited, and the flimsy hips. So that is Predaking. He's definitely a product of his era. Was originally released in 1986, the first new line of toys after the original animated movie, debuted in the 3rd season premiere, Five Faces of Darkness, and was made to look supremely badass. I always wanted him as a kid. I had a friend who had a couple of them. I think he had one of the arms and one of the legs. I didn't know anybody who ever had the central torso, but I always just kind of imagined, I don't think I ever even saw one in stores, but I always just kind of imagined that that he would follow the same kind of pattern as all the other combiners, is having a torso that's a little bit bigger. And I kind of wish that that was what they did. That's what Mastermind Creations did with their Feral Rex. Their Leo Dux toy, the central component, is about maybe 10% bigger than the two limbs that are out so far, the two legs. I have no idea how it's going to compare with their arms when they come out, but I'm super excited. But yeah, so because the torso is the same size as the four limbs, it kind of gives him gimpy proportions, which is why I kind of cheat that transformation a little bit. I pull his arms out a little bit, try to give him elbows, try to make him look a little bit, a little bit less derped. But it's a fun toy, for an 80s era combiner that you can tell back then they really tried to do something special. Like they could very easily have just done like the Scramble City type, just the large torso and the scrawny limbs, but they didn't. They really tried to do something impressive. And I don't think they've ever tried doing that again. Ever since, pretty much every combiner has always followed. If it's been a 5-unit combiner, it's always followed that same pattern, with 1 or 2 exceptions. But I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I got it on sale. I would have been much happier if I could have gotten it cheaper. But, what are you going to do? So yeah, would I recommend you get it? If you can find one on sale, and you can justify the price, but don't pay full price for it. Full price on the shelf here is $150. Definitely not worth that. I don't know what the retail is at US stores. I know they were selling them on Amazon for around $70 or $80 last year for around Christmas time for a couple of days. If you can ever find one for that price, if you have any interest, don't hesitate. Even at the 112, I think that I paid. I think it's worth that. It's by the narrowest of narrow margins, but I would say for 110, 120 bucks, it's worth it. But only just 150, definitely not. But if you've ever wanted a Predaking, if you had one as a kid or had a couple of the components as a kid and always wanted the rest, if you just wanted to have a big, intimidating combiner, this was easily the biggest combiner of its era. Yeah, if you can justify the cost, if you can get it on sale, I'd recommend you pick one up, because these will not be around for very long. Because I can't imagine Hasbro made that many of them. So that's all she wrote. Thanks everyone out there for watching. Happy collecting.